Good morning. Good to see you all again this morning. Good to be with you. I'm just taking a little informal poll at each of our services, and just, it helps me to get to know folks. And I'm curious as to the 8 o'clock crowd. How many people here are on Facebook at 8 o'clock? How many people have a Facebook account? Raise them high. I need to see. You got, all right, don't be shy. All right, that's interesting. Okay. So almost half. That was what happened last night as well. I'm interested just to see how many folks are out there on Facebook, because that tells me how much I have to explain about this opening illustration. Does that make sense? If you're on Facebook, you may have heard of Farmville. How many people have actually heard of Farmville or ever heard of it? You may have heard of it even if you're not on Facebook. But Farmville is a game or an application on Facebook that people play. It's really a time waster is basically what it is. So if you're sitting at work and you don't want to work, you could just go on your Farmville thing and start growing crops or whatever. But it's a game that you're given a piece of land, and you actually go and you plant crops on it, and then you harvest the crops. And if you harvest so many crops, you get coins. And then you can use those coins to buy more seed to produce more crops and to get more coins. And then after you get enough coins, you can actually buy more land. And then after you buy more land, you can also use your coins to buy bigger barns to store your stuff in. And then when holidays come around, you can actually buy stuff for Christmas and Easter and just about any holiday you can think of. You can buy items, lawn ornaments and things to sit on your farm. And then when the holiday is over, you can buy a storage shed to put your stuff in. And if you get tired of digging all your land by hand, you can buy a tractor. And then you can buy a harvester. You can buy, I don't even know, what else can you buy? How many people are, any Farmville people here that can tell me what else can you buy? Does this at all sound familiar? Does this at all sound familiar? It does to me. We get up, we go to work, we get paid, so that we can buy a house and buy a piece of property. Then we fill that house with stuff. And then when we run out of room in our houses, we build storage areas to put our stuff in. And the cycle goes on, doesn't it? I'm amazed at how we would go online and play this when we get to play it every day in real life. Ellicott City was ranked the number 2 small city to live in America by Money Magazine, based on the economics, based on the security of the area, based on the jobs. And I think about that. I mean, we in Ellicott City, we seem to have it all, don't we? We seem to have it all. We seem to be living the American dream. Do you know that in the states of Maryland and Virginia, that the largest homes in America are built in Maryland and Virginia? California's number 1, Virginia number 2, Maryland number 3. And you know what else is going on in the United States? Storage facilities are being built all over the United States, and we have more storage space than we have ever had before. It is a $1 million business to have storage, to go rent a storage space. We've got it pretty good. We've got it really good. We are wealthy beyond imagination. And here Jesus comes at us with this question: what good will it be for you to gain the whole world, yet forfeit your soul? What good will it be for us to have all these things and yet forfeit our souls? This is the preacher's dilemma, because I live that life. I live the American dream, and I've got to preach this text. You see what I'm saying? You see the dilemma I'm in? You see so I'm standing here today as not as someone who's got it all together, not as someone who's got it all figured out, but someone who's trying to have integrity with the text. So let the text speak this morning, even if I don't quite get there. But here's the thing. If you don't think that our living and gaining things does not affect our souls, let me show you this chart that I came across. We got a chart up this morning about the world's wealth in relationship to religiosity. They did a survey. You'll notice that the poorer the country is, the more religiosity there is in that country. The wealthier the country is, the less religiosity there is in that country. The only exception on that chart is one country. I don't know if you can see it all the way in the back, but there's one country that there's an exception to. Do you know can you see it? What is it? U.S. We've been able to hold on to religiosity at the same time that we have gained wealth and grown in our economy. But interestingly enough, that in general, Jesus' verse and Jesus' challenge to us has rung true. That as we gain things and as we gain the world and as we get richer, we do tend to be less focused on our souls. Because we've got lots of things to distract us, don't we? The more we have, the more distractions we have, the less time we think about God. See, most people in the world cannot go to Starbucks and spend $5 on a cup of coffee. Most people in the world don't even make $5 a week or a day or a month. Some people only make about $2 a month in some places of the world. The fact that you and I can go to Borders or Barnes & Noble and buy a book for pleasure reading makes us rich compared to the rest of billions of people in the world. The fact that I can go rent a movie or go see a movie on a weekend makes me among the world's elite. And in fact, only 2% of the world's population own their own homes. We are rich. We are wealthy. We have gained the whole world. My question is, what's happening with our souls in the process? What happens to our souls in the process of gaining things and gaining the world? Well, Jesus says we end up losing it. Jesus is inferring that there's a problem here, that there's a conflict between our desire to do God's will, our desire to serve God's kingdom, and to gain the world and to build our own kingdoms. There's a conflict there. There's a struggle there. I don't know if you feel it. I feel it. I feel it as I live in this nation of wealth and as I live in this place of wealth. I feel the tension within me. I don't know if you do. I do. About what Christ calls us to do and yet what I want to do. So how do we keep our souls healthy? How do we keep from losing our souls when we live in such a great wealthy place? Well, let me give you a couple ideas this morning. And I'm going to call it spiritual health and wellness. Okay? So here's a couple tips on how to stay spiritually healthy. Spiritual health and wellness. Just like you and I have to exercise and eat right to take care of our bodies, correct? There are certain things we need to exercise spiritually and eat right spiritually to keep our souls healthy. Now, there are two things that Jesus gives us. The first one is this idea of self-denial. Self-denial actually helps keep us spiritually healthy. We can talk about all kinds of practices and disciplines of self-denial. We call that fasting. Denying ourselves something so that we will become more focused on God in our lives. That's what fasting helps us do. An example of what we did, my family and I, about 3 years ago, decided to take 3 months off from what we called luxury spending. So for 3 months, we decided not to spend any money going out to eat, going to movies, buying books, impulse buys at the grocery store, anything of that nature. We didn't even buy new clothes for 3 months. Unless the kids need a new pair of shoes, sometimes you have to do that. But basically, we spent 3 months fasting from spending money, other than food and bill, paying the electric bill and the mortgage. And then at the end of that 3 months, what we did was we took the money that we calculated we had saved, and we helped to provide clean water for someone in another country who didn't have access to fresh water. Now, what happened to us in those 3 months is this. Guess what? We survived. We survived. We made it a whole 3 months without any of that stuff. We were okay. In fact, we found that as a family, we actually started to do more stuff together. We weren't spread out, but we came together as a family. So, and I would say that even my kids remember that, and they said, Dad, that was all right. They thought I was crazy when I thought of the idea. But it turned out all right. They survived. The point is, I think that helped my soul. That helped keep my soul healthy. The other thing that I think that Jesus lets us in on here about keeping our soul healthy is Jesus says, also you got to let go. You got to let go. Particularly your life, but you and I have to let go of our things and our stuff. We have to let go of those things, because when we let go, we're freeing our souls up. We're making them a little bit lighter. I was thinking about, in our neighborhood, some kids got together in our neighborhood, and they were having a yard sale. They had gathered all their toys and all their stuffed animals, and they had raided Mom's cupboard for the brownies, and they got lemonade out of the refrigerator. Maybe they made it themselves, I don't know. But all the kids got together, and they set out on the front lawn, all their stuff. And they made some brownies and put some lemonade out there. They were entrepreneurial. And so, being the good dad I was in the neighborhood, I thought I'd go support their fledgling business. And I thought, I'll go over there and I'll drop a dollar bill, I'll buy a brownie, and I'll put $1 in their cigar box. So I went over there and found the right brownie, the kind that's not too crunchy, but just real soft and mushy in the center. Anybody a mushy in the center brownie person? All right. So I got that brownie, and I went to put my $1 in their cigar box. And as I looked at it, they had a sign on the table that said, all proceeds go to buy mosquito nets for people in Africa. Now, I thought they were there selling their stuff to get a new Wii game or a new Nintendo game. But these kids had reminded me that it's not about, they were willing to let go of their stuff to help make a difference in somebody else's life in the world. And all of a sudden, that $1 that I was going to put turned into a $5 bill. What amazed me about that too is the kids weren't haggling about who was making the most money. If they had been in it for themselves, what they had been doing, they would say, well, those are my toys, and that was my stuffed animal gets sold for $1, so that's my $1. You see what I'm saying? None of that was going on. They weren't haggling. They weren't having to keep track. In fact, I found a group of kids just enjoying doing what they were doing, experiencing just the fulfillment of knowing that they were making a difference in somebody else's life. They had found their souls. I think about that. Isn't gaining the world create competition, and doesn't it create trying to get mine and keep track of mine and hold on to mine and spend mine and get mine? And in the process of doing that, we eat away at our souls. But ultimately, Jesus said this. He says, if anyone desires, you hear that word? Desires to follow me, they must deny themselves, take up their cross, and follow me. We often think of that cross as a burden. Haven't you ever heard that? I'm carrying my cross. It's some burden that I'm having to bear. I don't think that's what Jesus meant. Jesus meant you and I have to crucify ourselves. We have to put to death ourselves, our will, our desires, so that Christ's desires can take over in our lives. Paul put it this way in Galatians 2:20. He said, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. That's what Jesus is talking about. Dying to self so that Christ can come and live in me as I live in the world. Amen? Amen.